This is a 5 MeO DMT trip report by Inner Explorer, posted to arrowwood.org on January 2nd, 2017. I had spent many weeks reading other people's stories about 5 MeO DMT. Some described a wave of bliss that felt like being inside a warm light. Others warned of a sudden loss of breath and a sense of dying. The range of reports made me feel that I needed to approach this medicine with a great deal of respect and caution. I felt that I was meant to work with this teacher at some point, but the exact moment was not clear. The vial arrived a few weeks after I began my research, and it sat in a drawer for a while. I used that time to think about why I wanted to meet this teacher. My intention was simple and also deep. I wanted to see what death really meant, to meet what people call God, and to break the mental cages I had built around myself. I also decided that I would not jump straight into a breakthrough dose. I would start with a small amount and see how my mind and body responded. On a Friday, I woke up feeling lost. A quiet sadness had been hovering at the back of my mind for about a week. I could not point to a single cause, but each day I felt a little more pressure to keep moving forward with my personal work. That day, I felt a strong call to try a microdose of 5 MeO DMT. I took a digital scale, placed a tiny piece of foil on it, and measured out exactly 5 milligrams. I placed the powder under my tongue and kept it there for about 30 minutes before swallowing. The effect was subtle. My mood lifted a little, not in a dramatic way, but enough that I could sit with the lingering depression without being swallowed by it. I felt a small amount of compassion for the part of me that was hurting. That compassion let me act in a way that eased the sadness. The day ended well. I spent the evening with a friend who seemed to be becoming a good companion. I went to bed feeling lighter than I had in days. The next morning I awoke to a gentle rain tapping against the window. The sky was a soft, mystical gray. The sound of the rain was steady and calming. I lay in bed for a few minutes, listening to the water, feeling the cool air on my skin. The call to work with the medicine returned, this time louder. At first I felt fear. I asked myself what the fear was about. I realized it was a fear of the unknown and a deep respect for the power of this substance. I told myself that this was the right time. My mind was clear, my heart was calm, and I had the whole day free of obligations. I decided to move forward slowly and deliberately. I began by lighting a small candle on my altar, placing a small bowl of sandalwood incense beside it, and sitting in front of the 4 directions I had painted on a piece of cloth. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, and prayed for guidance and safety. I asked the east for clarity, the south for courage, the west for surrender, and the north for grounding. I felt a gentle sense of connection to each direction, as if the room itself was holding me. After the meditation, I weighed out 4 milligrams of 5 MeO DMT on the same scale. I placed the powder in a glass bulb pipe, the kind that looks like an oil burner. I noted that the material I had was the hydrochloride salt, which vaporizes a little slower than the freebase form. I turned on the lighter, held the flame to the tip of the bulb, and watched as a thin cloud of vapor began to rise. I inhaled slowly, holding the breath for 10 seconds while I repeated my intention. I am ready to meet what is beyond the mind. I am ready to let go of my fear. I am ready to receive love. I exhaled gently. The rush was not like the visual explosions some people describe with other tryptamines. There were no bright fractals or strange shapes. I felt a deep sense of peace settle over me, as if I were sitting in a familiar room that suddenly felt more spacious. It was as if the medicine was scanning my body, looking for tension and blockages. I waited about 15 minutes, feeling the subtle shift in my body. Then I measured 6 milligrams, placed it in the pipe, and repeated the process. This second inhalation brought a stronger wave of bliss. I could feel an energetic current moving through my limbs, a gentle vibration that seemed to smooth out any remaining tightness. I lay down on my couch, allowing the feeling to unfold. A purge began to rise in my throat. When I vomited, it felt like a cleansing fire. The taste was bitter, but the relief that followed was profound. I felt lighter, as if a weight I had not known I was carrying had been lifted. I stared at the trash can and saw a shadow that had been dimming my light. The physical act of purging was uncomfortable, but the emotional release that accompanied it felt necessary. While I rested, another thought entered my mind. I felt a call to try the medicine intravenously. I had never used this route before, but something inside told me it was the right step. My experience with needles had always been positive, mostly in medical settings where I had administered other psychedelics. I felt a reverence for the tool. I lit another stick of sandalwood incense, opened a playlist of music I had compiled over months for trips, and gathered my supplies. My scale could not measure below 5 milligrams accurately, so I decided to weigh out 7 milligrams of powder. I sterilized the weighing dish, a small ceramic bowl with isopropyl alcohol, then let it dry. I drew 1 milliliter of sterile water into a syringe, then added the powder. The white crystals dissolved quickly, forming a clear solution. I calculated that injecting 0.4 milliliters would give me about 8 milligrams of the active compound, just under the highest dose that Alexander Shulgin had reported for this route. I found a vein in my left arm on the first try. I placed a small flag on the skin to remind me where I had entered. I began to push the plunger slowly, watching the tiny markings on the syringe. After I had injected 0.2 milliliters, I felt a faint tingling at the base of my skull, like a mild electric current. I kept my focus, finished the injection, capped the needle, and laid down on the couch with my arm extended. The moment I lay down, the sensation changed rapidly. The tingling grew into a buzzing that started at the back of my head, at the brainstem, and moved forward. It felt like a soft electric wave traveling through my brain, reaching the prefrontal cortex. My muscles began to loosen, and my sense of control slipped away. My thoughts raced. What have I just done? Did I overdose? Is this safe? The fear rose quickly, but at the same time, a deep bliss rose from somewhere deep inside my chest. I could not separate the two. The fear and the bliss were intertwined like two sides of the same coin. I decided to surrender. I let the feeling take over, allowing the buzzing to spread. The room seemed to dissolve around me. I could hear the rain outside, but it was muffled, as if I were underwater. The incense smoke curled in slow spirals, but I did not see the shapes, only felt the warmth on my skin. My mind stopped making ordinary thoughts. Instead, images of moments in my life floated up like bubbles. I saw the times I had shared love with friends, the times I had hurt people, the moments I had felt alone. In each memory I felt a pulse of love, then a pulse of regret. I whispered silently, "I am sorry," to each scene. I thought of my family, my friends, the people who had been there for me. I felt a surge of gratitude and a deep ache of loss for the parts of myself I had left behind. The buzzing turned into a feeling of being inside an ocean of light. It was not a visual hallucination, but a sense of being surrounded by a vast, warm, vibrating field. I imagined the field as an endless sea of energy that touched every living thing. My sense of self seemed to melt into that field. I could not describe the feeling with words, but it was as if I were a single drop of water joining a larger wave. The wave carried me, and I felt no fear of drowning. Instead, I felt a profound sense of belonging. Tears began to run down my face, not from sadness, but from an overwhelming recognition that I was part of something larger. I thought, how could I have forgotten? The realization hit me hard. I felt as if I had been asleep for a long time and was now waking. The tears grew stronger, and I whispered thank you into the quiet room. At that instant, a shaft of sunlight broke through the gray clouds outside, landing on my left hand that was stretched out over the edge of the bed. I felt the heat of the sun on my skin, a physical sensation that matched the inner warmth I was feeling. It was not a hallucination. The light was real. The heat was real. I took it as a sign, a direct communication from whatever was beyond my mind. In that moment, I felt a clear purpose settle in my heart. I understood that my life was meant to help others find this love, to guide them toward the same realization. I saw flashes of times when I had helped friends connect with something deeper, moments when I had spoken words that seemed to open a doorway for them. I knew there would be more work ahead, but I also knew that I was on the right path. The bliss continued to ripple through my body. My breathing became slow and even, each inhale feeling like a gentle tide. My mind was not filled with thoughts, but with a simple awareness of being. I felt a strong urge to tell someone what I had just experienced, to share the feeling of being part of that ocean. At the same time, I sensed that the moment could slip away if I tried to hold on to it with words. I reminded myself to stay present, to let the feeling be without trying to capture it. I turned my attention to my body. I felt the mattress beneath me, the coolness of the sheets against my skin, the steady beat of my heart. I promised myself that I would take better care of this vessel, that I would listen to its signals, because it was the tool that allowed me to do this work. I knew that if I neglected my health, my ability to help others would be limited. The music in the background shifted slowly, each note resonating with the feeling inside me. I let the sounds wash over me, matching the rhythm of my breath. I felt the world around me become both vast and intimate at the same time. I was aware of the rain still falling, the scent of sandalwood, the soft hum of the heater, and the distant sound of a car passing outside. All of these ordinary details blended into the larger feeling of unity. I stayed in this state, allowing the wave of bliss to flow, feeling the love that seemed to come from everywhere. I did not know how long this would last, but I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. The experience was still unfolding, and I was willing to ride it wherever it led. I breathe in the rain that still taps against the window and feel the scent of sandalwood wrap around my thoughts. The music continues, each note a gentle push on the tide of feeling that rolls through me. I notice the pressure at the base of my skull turning into a soft vibration that spreads outward, as if a small engine has started inside my head and is humming at a low, steady speed. The vibration does not frighten me. It feels like a reminder that something is moving, that a change is happening. The first sharp rise comes suddenly. It is as if a door that has been slightly ajar has been opened wide. Light floods the interior of my mind, not a visual light, but a sense of openness that pushes away every edge that I have known. I feel my body become light, as if the weight of the blankets, the mattress, the room itself is no longer attached to me. My left arm, which was hanging over the side of the bed, seems to float a few centimeters above the sheet. My right hand, which was resting on my chest, lifts without my will and hovers in the air. I do not try to move it. I simply watch it as it hovers, as if it is a part of the breath that I am taking. The feeling of love that has been present since the beginning now expands. It is no longer a feeling that sits inside me. It is a pressure that pushes outward in all directions. It touches the rain outside, the sound of the car passing, the heater that hums low in the corner. It reaches the walls, the floor, the ceiling, and then seems to go beyond the room, beyond the house, beyond the street. I can sense the same love in the trees that are hidden behind the rain, in the soil that holds the roots, in the air that carries the scent of wet earth. It is as if the whole world is breathing the same breath as I am. At this moment, I am not thinking about words or stories. My mind is a clear surface, like a pond that has just been stilled after a stone was thrown in. Thoughts that normally swirl and spin fall away. There is a sense of being in the middle of something that has no beginning and no end. I feel a deep sense of belonging, as if I have always been part of this flow and now I am finally aware of it. I do not feel fear. The fear that was present before the injection has melted away, replaced by a calm that is deeper than any calm I have known. The peak continues for several minutes. During this time, I sense a series of images, not pictures but impressions. I see a field of water that stretches forever, a surface that reflects nothing and everything at the same time. I feel a presence that is not a person, not a deity, but a sense of being held. It is gentle, like a mother's hand on a child's back, but also vast, like the ocean that holds all ships. I hear a low hum that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. It is not a sound that I can locate. It is a vibration that fills the entire space of my awareness. In the middle of this hum, I hear a series of words that come without effort. They are not spoken aloud, but they are clear in my mind. The first is release. I understand that I have been holding many things inside: expectations, doubts, hurts, responsibilities. The second is accept. I feel that I am being asked to accept what is without trying to change it. The third is love. The word repeats, and each repetition feels like a pulse that pushes the love deeper into my core. I do not try to analyze these words. I simply let them settle. The wave of love begins to settle into a steadier rhythm. The sharp brightness of the peak softens into a warm glow that stays with me. My breath becomes slower, each inhale and exhale feeling like a tide moving in and out. The vibration at the base of my skull turns into a gentle thrum that matches the beat of my heart. I notice that my heart is beating slower than it normally does, but each beat feels stronger, as if it is pushing life through every cell. My body begins to feel more solid again, but the sense of separation between body and mind is still thin. I am aware of the feeling of the mattress against my back, the warmth of the blanket, the pressure of the blanket on my skin. I feel the blood moving through my veins, the slight ache in my left arm where the needle entered, and the faint taste of metal on my tongue. All of these details are present, but they do not disturb the calm that has settled. The plateau lasts longer than the peak. It is a period where the intense wave of bliss has turned into a steady, quiet river. I stay in this river, allowing the water to flow over me. I notice small thoughts beginning to surface, like leaves that float on the surface. One thought is about the people I have hurt in the past. I see a memory of a conversation where my words cut deeper than I intended. I feel a pang of sorrow, but the surrounding love holds it gently, as if to say that it is okay to feel it. Another thought is about the work I have not yet completed, the projects that sit unfinished on my desk. The love does not push these thoughts away. It simply allows them to be present without pulling me into anxiety. I realize that the love I am feeling is not a feeling that belongs only to me. It is a feeling that belongs to everything I am thinking about. When I think of a friend who is struggling, the love expands to include them. When I think of a stranger on the street, the love reaches out to them as well. I feel a deep sense of responsibility, not as a burden, but as a natural response to the connection I have felt. I understand that my purpose is not to fix everything, but to be present, to hold space, to be a channel for this love when it is needed. The music in the background shifts again. The notes become slower, each one lingering longer before fading. The rain outside becomes softer, as if the clouds are parting slightly. The scent of sandalwood grows faint, replaced by the faint smell of the room's wood. I notice the temperature of the room changing very slightly, a gentle warmth that seems to come from within me rather than from the heater. As the plateau continues, the intensity of the experience begins to decline. The vibration at the base of my skull lessens, becoming a faint pulse. The feeling of floating becomes a feeling of being grounded again. My left arm, which had been hovering, now rests gently on the mattress. My right hand, which had been hovering, now rests on my chest, feeling the rise and fall of my breath. I am aware that the peak has passed, but the afterglow remains. I begin to notice the edges of the experience. The sense of being in an ocean of love recedes, like the tide pulling back from the shore. The water leaves behind smooth stones, each stone a small insight that I can hold in my mind. One stone is the realization that I have been afraid of death because I have not truly understood what death means. In this space I see death not as an end, but as a transition, a return to the same ocean that I have just felt. Another stone is the understanding that I have been holding on to the idea that I must control everything. The love shows me that control is an illusion, and that surrender is a safer path. My breath becomes more pronounced. I feel the air entering my nostrils, cool and fresh, and leaving as warm. I notice the slight ache in my left arm where the injection was given. It is a dull, throbbing sensation, not painful but present. I feel a small warmth spreading from that spot, as if the blood is moving more freely. I am aware of the slight tremor in my hands, a residual effect of the medicine. I do not judge these sensations, I simply note them. The music fades and a silence settles over the room. The silence is not empty. It is full of the lingering love that has been left behind. In this silence, I hear my own thoughts more clearly. I think about the intention I set before the injection, to understand death, to experience God, to release the prisons of my mind. I see that each intention has been touched. The understanding of death has been opened, the experience of God has been felt as the ocean of love, and the prisons of my mind have begun to crack. I feel a gentle urge to move. I shift my body, feeling the mattress give way under my weight. I sit up slowly, keeping my eyes closed. The rain outside has slowed to a gentle drizzle. The scent of sandalwood is faint, but it still lingers on my clothes. I open my eyes and look at the ceiling. The light from the window is soft, a pale gray that filters through the clouds. I feel a sense of gratitude rise in my chest. I am grateful for the medicine, for the care I took in preparing, for the space I created, for the love that has been shown to me. The come down continues for a while. The sharp edges of the peak have softened, and the plateau has become a gentle slope back to ordinary awareness. I notice my thoughts returning in their usual patterns, but they feel lighter, as if they have been brushed clean. I think about the day ahead, about the meeting I have scheduled for the afternoon. I feel a calm certainty that I will be able to attend to it without being overwhelmed. I notice a small smile forming on my face, not forced, but natural. After the immediate effects have faded, I stay in the room for some time, allowing the after effects to settle. I drink a glass of water, feeling the cool liquid travel down my throat and into my stomach. The water tastes clean, and each sip feels like a small cleansing. I notice that my tongue is slightly numb from the injection, but the sensation is not uncomfortable. I place a hand on my left arm, feeling the faint pulse where the needle entered. I think about the fact that I have used a needle before in other contexts, and that this tool has become a bridge for me to access deeper parts of myself. I spend the next hour in quiet reflection. I write in a notebook, using plain sentences to record what I have experienced. I write that the peak was a wave of love that seemed to come from everywhere, that the plateau was a steady river of calm, that the come down was a gentle return to the body, and that the after effects are a sense of clarity and purpose. I note the specific images that came: the endless field of water, the humming presence, the words release, release, accept, love. I write that the love felt like a hand holding my own, that it reached out to others, and that it gave me a sense of responsibility to be a channel for this love. I also write about the physical sensations: the vibration at the base of my skull, the floating feeling of my arms, the faint ache in the injection site, the warmth spreading from that spot, the slower heartbeat, the deeper breath. I note that the music helped guide the experience, that the rain outside added a grounding element, that the sandalwood incense created a sacred atmosphere. Later, after the notebook is closed, I move to the kitchen to make a simple meal. I cut a piece of fruit, feeling the knife glide through the skin, the juice that drips onto the cutting board. I notice the sound of the knife, the scent of the fruit, the texture of the flesh as I bite into it. The taste is bright, and each chew feels like a small celebration of the senses. I sit at the table, looking out the window at the rain, and feel a deep sense of being present. The rest of the day passes with a quiet rhythm. I attend the meeting in the afternoon, and I notice that I am able to listen more fully, to speak with calm, to be aware of the subtle dynamics in the room. I do not feel the need to prove anything. I simply allow the conversation to unfold. When a colleague mentions a difficulty they are facing, I feel the love that was present during the peak extend toward them, and I am able to offer a simple, sincere suggestion without trying to fix everything. I notice that I am less reactive, that I can hold space for others without being pulled into their emotions. When I return home, I take a shower. The water hits my skin, warm and steady, and I feel the water washing away the remnants of the experience, not erasing them, but integrating them. I notice the steam rising, the sound of the water hitting the tiles, the scent of the soap. I stand under the stream, feeling the water run over the spot where the needle entered, and I feel a small tingling sensation, as if the water is activating the same pathway that the medicine used.